Okay, so this activity is 8.2, rotating a segment. Now this is a little bit different in your book than it was online, because online you had to make your own line segment and things like that, but on the book it already provides it for you, so we're just going to use what the book has. So I can kind of demonstrate what your activity should kind of look like. Okay, so the first question tells you, rotate segment CD, this is CD right here, CD, 180 degrees around D. Okay, so let's do that part first. And as you notice, when it told us to do the rotation, it didn't tell us to do it clockwise or counterclockwise. So I think we're going to try it both ways and see what happens. So first let's do it clockwise and then around center D. This is my center D here. And as you can see, I got it lined up pretty good on the side of my paper, so I know I only have to turn my paper twice to get there. So let me go 90, then there we go, that will be 180. So I'm just going to put me a mark right here, and I'm not going to connect it yet till we can be sure that went through. We're going to be sure if we go both directions, see what happens when we go the other direction. That was clockwise. So now let's try counterclockwise and see what happens. So I'm going to put my pencil on center D again, because remember, it didn't tell us which direction to go, so we're trying both. So we're going counterclockwise this time, and this is going to be 90 degrees and 180 degrees. Do you see what happened? It landed in the exact same spot as the other. And because it did that, I'm going to go ahead and connect our point. And with your protractor or straight edge, then I'm going to label that. It says to label C, that was C, as A. So I'm going to put an A there, just like it said to do. All right. So then our next question says, rotate segment CD, just this part right here again, this is CD, 180 degrees around point E. Here's your point E, okay? So as just the same as it did last time, it really didn't tell us which direction to go, so we're going to try it both ways. So first thing I'm going to do is get my tracing paper, line it back up real nice and neat. And the first time, let's go clockwise. Here's my center E. And remember, we just have to go 180 degrees. So that means I got to move it clockwise 180 degrees. So I'm just going to move it from corner to corner. So that will be 90. And this will be right there. Should be 180. And I'm going to put my points right here and push down a little bit. See if they come out. Yeah, they did. So I'm going to put my points here, and I'm not going to connect it until I can see if it's going to land in the same spot going counterclockwise too. So I'm going to put it back on here, line my points back up, and I'm going to go counterclockwise 180 degrees. Okay. 180. Looky there. Same spot again. Okay. So now because they're in the same spot, I'm going to connect my points. Like this. And what does it tell me to label them this time? It says draw the image and label the image C as B. So if we put this on here, that would be C as B. So that would be B here. And D as F. So we're going to label that one F. Okay. All right. So then let me see. I think it gives us another one to try. It says rotate segment CD, this segment right here, just CD again, 180 degrees around midpoint G. Do you know what midpoint means? Midpoint means it's halfway. So G is halfway in between C and D. Okay? So once again, it doesn't give us a direction, so let's just try it both ways. So I'm going to put my pencil on G because it tells me that's going to be my center of rotation. And I'm going to hold it there, and I'm going to go 180 degrees clockwise, then I'm going to do it counterclockwise. So that would be 90, 180. Oh, did you see what happened? It's on the same place. The only thing different about it is just the points are backwards. Okay, so now we're going to put it back up here, and we're going to go 180 degrees again, but this time we're going to go counterclockwise. So that's going to be 90, and one more turn will be 180, and it winds up back on the same spots again, or points again. The only thing different is you got your C and your D points are just backwards now. Okay. Okay, just a few things I want to talk about before we move on. Why is it not necessary to specify the direction of 180 degree rotation? Okay, remember when we just did our activity with the C and the D, what happened? When we rotated 180 degrees, they both wound up in the same place. Because they both wound up in the same place of going clockwise or counterclockwise, it's not necessary to specify when you have a line segment when you're rotating 180 degrees because your points are always going to be in the same place. Okay? So then you had number 4 in your book. It says, what happens when you rotate a segment 180 degrees around a point? Okay, so let's take a look at that. There's 3 important ideas about this question. 1, rotating a segment 180 degrees around a point that is not on the original line segment produces a parallel segment of the same length as the original. We saw that when we did number 2 in our book. It just made those parallel. All right. When the center of rotation is the midpoint, okay, the rotate segment is the same segment as the original, except the vertices were switched to different, remember that C and D were switched to the opposite places, and that's when we did number 2. Okay? Then, when the center of rotation is the end point, okay, the segment together with the image is twice as long. That's just like when we did number 1 in our book. Remember when we drew the line segment out and we labeled it A, it was twice as long as it was to start with. Okay? We're not going to do, are you ready for more? But if you would, go ahead to your book and you can start on your next activity.